Following the game, that neighbor left and returned with a large knife. Our victim appears to have gone to his vehicle and retrieved a firearm and attempted to shoot the suspect as he fled down the road.
Breaking now at 6:30, a stabbing and then shots fired outside of a rental in Midtown, what witnesses told police. Plus, ring in the new year with new laws, the changes for Texans in 2024. And all year long, parties were divided on Capitol Hill. It was a dramatic time for lawmakers in Washington, D.C. We're reflecting back on 2023.
KHOU 11 Morning News starts now.
And starting off with downtown shots on this Sunday, December 31st. You're taking a live look over Houston and New York City. Good morning, I'm Katiera Winfrey.
And I'm Chris Ramirez.
And Chris, many are looking forward to the new year, but is this weather leading into 2024 worth celebrating?
Yes, I'd say so. We are definitely expecting a very pleasant afternoon.
And now to breaking news. A group invited a neighbor over to a party at an Airbnb. After some time, we're told he left and then returned with a large knife. Houston police say he stabbed one person at the party in the shoulder. The group was watching a football game at the property on Greeley Street. After the stabbing just before 1 this morning, the victim grabbed his firearm and began shooting at the suspect. He was taken to the hospital and police are now looking for the suspect. Also breaking, you're looking at the aftermath of a crash involving a Houston police officer. You can see heavy damage on the front of the HPD unit and damage to the rear of the other car involved. It looks like airbags deployed, but HPD says no one was seriously hurt. This happened at the intersection of Post Oak and Court Roads just after 10 last night. An 18-year-old is charged with murder after the team he was allegedly coaching on how to commit an armed robbery was killed. This happened 2 weeks ago at the Haven at Elgin apartment building just north of U of H, and TSU. Those court records say Larry Holmes told the teen to rob two men at gunpoint at the complex. HPD says security guards heard several shots before a resident on the 17th floor found the teen dead in an elevator. Holmes has at least 3 other court cases pending. In August, he was charged with aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. Court records allege Holmes was one of 2 people stealing rims and tires off a car on Airport Boulevard. When a man went outside, Holmes allegedly pointed a gun and said, quote, "Don't move, I'm going to expletive shoot you." Holmes is in the Harris County Jail under a $250,000 bond. And we're just hours away from the start of the new year, and when the clock strikes midnight on January 1st, some new laws will be going into effect. Maria Aguilera breaks down just a few. And from politics in Texas to our nation's capital, much of 2023 was spent focused on 2 big stories: the race for the Speaker of the House and legal action against former President Donald Trump. Natalie Brand is in Washington with a look back at the political drama that played out through 2023. The time now is 6:39. Still ahead, man's best friend is a healthy choice. The benefits researchers found for owning a pet.
Pretty gnarly.
Yeah,
The waves were biggest I've ever seen.
Plus nasty waves creating dangerous conditions this weekend along the West Coast. We've got the latest. Well, an exciting moment for one Cypress veteran who will be ringing in the new year with a much-needed upgrade to his home. Crews were hard at work this week. Julissa Garza gives us a closer look. The time is now 6:51. Still ahead, sometimes a gift for you is perfect for someone else. What you need to know before you regift anything you received over the holidays. Christmas is over and the gifts are open. Hopefully, most of you were happy with your presents, but for others, regifting may be unavoidable. It's a normal part of the holiday season, but there is a proper way to go about it to avoid hurting anyone's feelings. Etiquette experts Darian and Monica Lewis share their thoughts on the best ways to regift.
Know what circle you're regifting in. You don't want to regift to the same person who gave you the gift before. So always regift out of the circle that gift was given in, right?
Yes. And also, whenever you're going to regift, make sure you include the original tag. So that in the event that it's maybe not the right size, or they may already have one of those items, it makes the exchange process a little bit easier for them.
Well, Darian and Monica also say if you're going to regift something, make sure it's purposeful and meaningful, and always regift sparingly. According to them, some of the most regifted items include lotion, soap, and candy. Now, Chris, during the break, we were talking about I am a regifter. Are you a regifter?
I'd say yes. You know, what people don't know won't hurt them, you know, so I think so.
And I just said I just regifted some picture frames to my friends, but they liked it because it was a picture of all of us.
Right, and they didn't know until now.
Yeah, and then also she said they mentioned lotion was a highly regifted item. My skin's sensitive, so sometimes I can't use the fragrant lotions, so that's kind of what I do there.
I'd say so too. I think, you know, what those, like, I guess the elephant gifts, or what is
Oh,
that?
yeah,
where
the
people
white
are just
elephant
like,
parties,
yeah,
yeah.
where they like trade the gifts off. I think that's a good thing to, I mean, everybody's getting each other's gifts anyway.
Yeah, and it's better just getting something you don't want and then throwing it in the trash.
Right, for sure.
Because I've done that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if you are returning your gifts this weekend, beware. You may be off for the holidays, but scammers are working overtime. Grace White will break down the red flags to watch so you're not their next victim. And if you have a problem, Grace Can Help. Send her an email at gracecανhelp@khou.com. Give her a call at 713-521-HELP or visit our website, khou.com/gracecanhelp. We'll be right back after this break. Well, now at 7 in the final hours of 2023, we're reflecting back on events that made headlines around the globe.
And we were expecting a pleasant start to our day, but we could see some showers as we ring in the new year with the arrival of a cold front. I'll have more details on that later in the newscast.
I'm Grace White. 'Tis the season for holiday returns. A few tips on how to do it safely coming up. KHOU 11 Morning News starts now.
Starting off with a live look from Galveston, courtesy of Saltwater Recon. Ooh, that sunrise is looking beautiful on this final Sunday of 2023. Good morning. I'm Katiera Winfrey here with Chris Ramirez. So Chris, we've talked about the new year coming. Break down what we have ahead in this forecast.
Yes, we are expecting warmer conditions later on this afternoon.
Well, two wars dominated international headlines in 2023, along with deadly earthquakes and climate concerns. CBS's Tina Krause is in London with a look back at the top international stories of the year. And now to the growing situation along the southern border, a warning to Texas Governor Greg Abbott. In a letter obtained by CBS News, the Department of Justice says it will sue Texas if it enforces a law signed by Abbott that makes illegal immigration a state crime. The order allows migrants to be arrested and prosecuted. And with migrant crossings at record highs in December, one man in San Antonio is providing them a place to stay. The father of three transformed this Airbnb alongside his wife into a makeshift shelter where they've welcomed more than 40 migrants over the past 2 weeks.
I cannot help everybody. I tried the best I can. Because there's a lot of kids, a lot of milk, a lot of eggs, toilet paper, soap. Everything is being bought by me. Everything.
And according to Abbott's office, Texas has bused more than 92,000 migrants to other cities across the country since last year. Now, mayors of New York, Chicago, and Denver are trying to slow the surge by requiring the bus operators to coordinate arrivals. They're threatening impound, fines, and even jail time. And turning now to Margaret Brennan, moderator of Face the Nation. She joins us live from Washington, D.C. Margaret, good morning. Well, lawmakers are working on a bipartisan deal.
Good morning.
Are working on a bipartisan deal to secure the border. Senator Lindsey Graham is on the show today. What can we expect to hear from him?
Well, Katiera, I'm going to try to press him on what has actually been agreed to during this holiday break, where lawmakers and their staff have continued to negotiate over Zoom some kind of compromise on a bipartisan basis in the Senate to change immigration law in this country for really the first time in nearly 40 years. This is on top of the request the White House made for billions of dollars in funds to help at the border and to help communities around the country dealing with the migrant influx. So we'll try to understand how close they are to a deal, because lawmakers will come back to work in the new year. And there is an urgency, as you mentioned, to just the number of people coming into this country, many stuck in a legal process that is just not moving swiftly enough. And we'll talk to two of the mayors you mentioned there, the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, and Denver's mayor, Mike Johnston, who are indeed asking Governor Abbott of Texas to at least give them a heads up before the buses arrive, because in particular in these cold weather months in Denver and in Chicago, people are arriving in the middle of the night, not at all ready for the very cold weather they are encountering. And those cities are not equipped, they say. They are asking the Biden administration to provide more resources to help deal with the migrant influx. So this is really just underscoring what you say. It is really a national issue.
Very important conversation, so definitely something to watch. Margaret, what else do you have coming up?
Well, we want to break down for people at home what you need to know about some of these state cases where in Maine and Colorado, for example, there were attempts to remove Donald Trump from the Republican primary ballot. In Colorado, he'll be there while the case is in the courts. But we want to understand what this means and whether indeed the Supreme Court will have to weigh in on that front. We know the Supreme Court is being pressured to step in and ultimately might have to when it comes to that broader question of presidential immunity. In an urgent court filing just last evening, Jack Smith, the special counsel, asked for that to be considered, saying that all presidents should face legal consequences for criminal action. So we'll talk about that with our election law contributor, David Becker. And we have some of our top reporters here to break down some of the issues you need to keep your eye on in 2024.
Well, quite a bit to talk about. Margaret Brennan live in D.C. Thank you very much. Now remember to stick around. All that and more on Face the Nation on Sunday mornings right here on KHOU 11 at 9:30. Well, the time is now 7:08. Get ready to bowl. It's a matchup that has Longhorns taking over New Orleans. We've got a
few days.
Well, it looks like we're going to be ending the year on a good note. I like that 70-degree temperature. Thanks,
Yes.
Chris. All right, so College Bowl games are in full swing. Tomorrow, the Texas Longhorns take on the Washington Huskies in the Sugar Bowl. It's a matchup that has fans road tripping to Louisiana. And that includes our very own Zach Toatari. Good morning, Zach. The time now is 7:17, still ahead. If you're overwhelmed by that student loan debt, you're not alone. The good news, though, the Department of Education is giving some grace. We'll explain next.
This week's
It has been a roller coaster for student loan borrowers hoping to get their loans forgiven. Now is the time to repay after a 3-year pause. Almost half of student borrowers have not started paying back student loans, and as our expert told our Troy Kless, there's a mix of reasons why. And that was Troy Kless reporting. Repaying those loans can also impact the rest of your finances. Those loans are part of your debt to income ratio, which calculates what kind of mortgage you can get if you're buying a house. If you need these tips or links to learn more, head over to KHOU.com. And still ahead, clarity for homeowners, how a new state law will help you navigate the rules and fines from your HOA. Well, now to breaking news. A group invited a neighbor over to a party at an Airbnb. After some time, we're told he left and then returned with a large knife. Houston police say he stabbed one person at the party in the shoulder. The group was watching a football game at the property on Greeley Street. After the stabbing just before 1 this morning, the victim grabbed his firearm and began shooting at the suspect. He was taken to the hospital and police are now looking for the suspect. Wharton police say a deadly fire was likely caused by a space heater. It happened early Saturday morning inside a shed on Breedling Lane just off of Elm Street. That's right next to the Colorado River. Wharton police identified the victim as 67-year-old Erasmo Don Juan. Now remember, when using a space heater, keep anything that can burn at least 3 feet away from the heater. Plug space heaters directly into the wall outlet. Never use an extension cord or power strip, and be sure to turn it off before you go to sleep. Finally, double check that you have working smoke detectors. From America's deadliest wildfire in 100 years to arrests in a couple of high-profile cold cases, to a life and death comeback on the football field. Bradley Blackburn looks back at the news that made national headlines this year. We're counting down the hours until a number of new laws go into effect for Texans, 31 laws in total, but we're going to break down just a few. Starting with Senate Bill 17, known as the anti-DEI law. This will ban diversity, equity, and inclusion offices, programs, and trainings at colleges and universities that are publicly funded. With the law in place, universities can't create offices for this function or require DEI training as a condition to be hired or admitted. Next, House Bill 4758 protects children from e-cigarette ads. This will make it a Class B misdemeanor crime to market, advertise, or sell e-cigarettes to minors. And third, Senate Bill 10, it states that members of the Texas teacher retirement system will get a one-time cost of living adjustment between 2% and 6% depending on when the teacher retired. Retired teachers haven't received a cost of living adjustment for 10 years. There's also a new law that will impact homeowners associations across Texas. House Bill 614 means there could be more transparency about what you could be charged for violations. You bought land and you own a home, but for people living in HOA communities, that doesn't necessarily mean you can do what you want.
It also spells out a schedule for what fines are available for enforcement. And so you're not surprised by maybe the first notice or second notice fine that happens.
Trey Bates is VP of Governmental Affairs with the Texas Realtors Association. Starting January 1st, 2024, the HOA fines associated with things like overgrown landscaping, parking violations, house alterations, and more become clearer.
Matter of lack of communication that happens in some HOAs. And the intent of this bill is to make sure that that communication happens.
According to House Bill 614, property owners associations will adopt a policy outlining the levying of fines, creating a list of fines for each category. Once that's done, they'll have to make that policy readily available on the internet or delivering copies to property owners by hand, by mail, or email.
To make sure that property owners are protected, that there's a balance in power.
Bates says Texas's booming population draws more attention to this as more people are looking for homes. He says you should always look at the HOA rules, but says this new measure should give you access to rules even at the start of the purchasing process.
I would really focus in on understanding what the HOA rules are before you sign on the dotted line so that you understand what you're walking into.
And if you were fined before this bill becomes a law, you'll still be held to that previous standard. You can read more about this HOA law and other new state laws on our website, KHOU.com. Well, the time now is 7:38. Still ahead, start off with the new year with a bang, not a boom. A preview of this year's New Year's Eve parties next. We're bringing you back from the break with a live look at Times Square from our friends at EarthCam. Crews have been putting the finishing touches on the big New Year celebration there. But the Houston area is hosting several places to ring in the new year too. Fireworks are back downtown. The show is being put on by Post Houston. Tickets to the Skylawn are sold out, but you can still walk around the first and second levels for free. Those fireworks start at midnight. Also, Sugarland Holiday Lights is hosting New Year's Eve and fireworks at Constellation Field. That's from 6 p.m. to midnight. You can buy tickets online, and Kemah Boardwalk is having a fireworks show at 9. And on the other side of the globe, people have already kicked off the new year. Early this morning, New Zealanders were amongst the first in the world to celebrate the arrival of 2024 with a fireworks display in Auckland. Chris, it's such a beautiful feeling to go into the new year knowing you can start new things and make it a little bit better.
Yes, that is true.
This weekend, a surprise celebrity helped stand for Houston during an event to help the homeless. Cedric the Entertainer joined rapper Trey the Truth while they were giving out jackets and blankets in downtown.
We got to show people when we see so much adversity in the world, we show people that it's actually folks out here doing good and willing to do good and want to do good, and that becomes uplifting, man.
The comedian was in Houston for a show last night. They were able to give out a few hundred jackets and blankets to those in need. Well, the entertainment industry skidded to a halt for several months of 2023. A plastic figure ruled the box office and history was made at the Oscars. Dania Bukas takes a look back at some of the year's top entertainment stories. Here's a live look at Moody Gardens, Iceland as we go to break. The top 3 things you need to know on this Sunday when we come back.
Welcome back. The time is now 7:54.
And now to the top 3 stories we're tracking, starting with number 3. Celebrating the start of the new year, officials predict that 1 million people will pack New York City's Times Square to watch the ball drop tonight. And there are plenty of fireworks displays and parties happening right here in the Houston area. If you're going out and plan to drink, be sure to have a plan. Text the word RIDE to 713-526-1111. We'll send you a link to companies offering free and discounted rides. Number 2, when the clock strikes midnight, 31 new laws will go into effect here in Texas. We have the full details on KHOU.com. And number 1, it's the final home game of the regular season at NRG Stadium for the Houston Texans. They're hosting the Titans at noon. Houston must win in order to keep its playoff hopes alive. And here's some good news for fans. Rookie quarterback C.J. Stroud, who is expected to lead his team once again after missing 2 weeks due to a concussion. Also, his fellow first-rounder linebacker Will Anderson Jr. is expected to see action after returning to practice this week.
And here's a final look at your New Year's Eve forecast. We are going to have a warm afternoon. By midnight, we're going to be in the 50s. You're going to probably need a light sweater. Could deal with some isolated showers with the arrival of a cold front, and then cooler for Monday afternoon. For your 7-day forecast, rain chances on the way for Tuesday and Wednesday. That's going to be in the overnight hours with chilly temps lasting through the week, and then another chance for rain for Friday. So temps remaining cold as we head into the new year.
All right, well, thank you all so much for being up with us. I'm Katiera Winfrey.
And I'm Chris Ramirez. Have a great day, have a safe New Year's Eve, and a happy New Year.
Now enjoy this moment of zen.